called to order.
But
As I may remind you,
that's why I do that every.
microphones are extremely sensitive. All conversations will be, and whispers and footsteps will be heard in this room,
Don't talk
even
about
side
people.
conversations at the table.
Don't talk about people.
So with that, let's do roll call.
Johnson
Present.
is present. Hopefully on his way. Markham, Miller, Rahman,
Present.
Long,
Here.
Spiz,
Present.
Smith Charles.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Long, lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. And before we go to item 4 on the agenda, I think I'm just out of breath. I'm not feeling emotional, but I did want to stop for a moment and acknowledge the passing of Janet Jackson's husband.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't hear.
I saw it yesterday on
I was
Facebook.
young then, right? I
I
mean,
think the visitation's Friday.
oh,
Sometimes
I
those,
just saw it yesterday.
I didn't see it.
little asthma just shows up out of nowhere. But yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, and because I know how dedicated she was and is to this community at large, and so definitely want you guys to keep her lifted up.
Could we ask staff to send out any announcements or information about arrangements when they are ready, if they haven't already?
Believe you do have that. They did this
It's
morning.
I didn't in the mail already? Okay.
He just sent it.
Yeah,
8:53 a.m.
okay, yeah.
I was driving.
I know, I was in the car.
I'm getting ready to hear.
Check your emails, it's in there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. How old was they?
70 something.
Oh, it's still
So
young.
definitely, we're thinking of our beloved Janet
Young.
and her family in this time. All right, that takes us to item 4, approval of minutes. I'll take a motion to entertain that.
moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Spiz. Is there support? Commissioner Johnson? Wonderful. As you all probably were able to read them at a time in the last couple of weeks, so any discussion or adjustments to that? Seeing none, we can go ahead and prompt the vote.
Sure.
Click submit, right? Save.
You have 7 days and 0 nights.
Thank you, that motion carries. The next item is 5 for the approval of the agenda. Moved by Markham, supported by Rahman. Any movements or changes in that? Looks good to all, great, let's go ahead and then prompt the vote.
I can save it, sorry.
You have 7 days and 0 nights.
Great, that motion carries. That takes us to item number 6, which is public comment. And that would be for anything related to the items on the agenda, 3 minutes per speaker at a maximum. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to address this committee? Seeing that there is no one moving towards the front, I will go ahead and close public comment. We have 7 items. We have 3 items under item 7 in communications. Is this one by one by one?
We would
can do
receive
it,
them all
right?
in file.
Okay.
I'll move it for A through C.
Sure, thank you. Moved by Commissioner Long to receive and file 7 A, B, and C, supported by, was that you, Mr. Miller? That was our hand,
I raised
Commissioner
my
Miller. Any discussion?
I do have,
Yes, Mr. Spiz.
for the American Rescue Plan Skilled and Educated Workforce Report, no issues with the report, but what I would like to request is they can provide us more information on where in the county all that activity is taking place. I mean, they have numbers in there for quantity. Geographically. But geographically, I don't know, because I'm assuming it's all over, but I'd like to see a geographical picture of where a lot of this is taking place for a lot of that.
Okay, we can definitely get that. It looks like Jennifer Llewellyn's listening in. Good morning.
Just give me a thumbs up if you're good.
Good morning. I'd be happy to provide that breakdown information.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, anything further under communications, Commissioner Rahman?
Just one quick question. For the last piece, the materials management plan, I wasn't sure. I know they have 30 days to respond. I assume we've responded already. I saw it was a communication to Chair Woodward just about working with Genesee County, but I don't know if what's happened, as a result of that communication.
Gang's all here.
And we've started.
And
Now that
we're
you're here.
yes,
He's coming from the LA.
just wondering if that doesn't apply to our other Eagle item. No.
It does not.
So I do see that, forgive me, I got one more screen to look at. I thought this had something to do with WRC, but I could be wrong. Sorry, Mr. Commissioner. Go ahead, Commissioner Spiz.
I just had a similar question on, wondering why it was coming to us in economic development versus Lago. 'Cause I thought it was more of a,
We
they
do
appoint
have-
solid waste committee, et cetera, that would go to Lago versus EDI. It's just,
Whitney, I see you cut your camera on and unmuted. Would you like to jump in?
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. Yep, this is going to be a really big process with a lot of different facets to it with this materials management plan. Recent changes to the law have gone into effect, and now the director of Eagle has called for those materials management plans to be written. In this first 180 days, we have a lot of administrative tasks to be done, and talking to the adjacent counties is part of that. So we're going to be seeing letters from each of the adjacent counties to the board, to Chair Woodward in the coming few months, as well as we're supposed to correspond with them as well. And I will just say that we do have the response going. We have been working through SEMCOG with a lot of the counties recently, and we do intend to continue collaborating with a lot of different facets of this plan as we move forward and collect data. But the anticipation now is that we would do a single Oakland County plan. That way we can cater all of the goals and objectives and all of the different parts that are included in the plan directly to what's needed within the county for the residents, the businesses, and the municipalities. So that's where that stands right now. There is a materials management planning committee that will be appointed, and that process has been started through Lago. So I hope that clarifies a little bit of your question, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the explanation. So just to clarify, I appreciate that we're doing an Oakland County plan. Are we still working in tandem with our surrounding counties or no? I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've found great value in kind of just collaborating and brainstorming on ideas as we knew this was coming. And SEMCOG has been facilitating that group and plans to continue. So absolutely, we'll be working with the surrounding counties.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our wonderful Michael Andrews just reminded us that, or reminded me, that we did get this presentation or report back in our November meeting. You have to go back and look. But thank you, Whitney, for being on the call and being available this morning for the questions. Awesome.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
This is on A through C.
A through C, 7A through C, yes.
Yes, 6 of them in
No,
there. Just so many of them.
Nothing popped up, but yes.
You have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
I'll
try to see, because it happened there yesterday too.
Oh,
Jinxed it.
try to refresh maybe.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Still did? Sometimes that works. It's the
Oh,
same.
oh, I'm sorry, Markham.
Yeah, it didn't pop up on my.
Ooh, you
Oh,
do
lean
things
over.
It's on the table
now.
now. Doesn't have to be.
Look at all the powers we have already in the election year.
Right.
Sign in, sign out.
Right?
Awesome, that
Election year,
motion
we put
carries
that
eight,
aside and
eight,
we're-
nothing.
Thinking, well, did I?
Next is our consent
Yeah,
agenda.
right, yeah.
I
Item
didn't
eight.
think I did.
Two
Yeah, I know.
BDI members. Consent agenda has two items under it. If you'd like, we could take both of those up at the same time. Commissioner Spiz moves, moved by Spiz and supported by Rahman. And that's for the Township of West Bloomfield Tri-Party and Commerce Tri-Party. Did you wanna make the motion instead?
It's all right.
And with that, discussion, comments, thoughts? Seeing none, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Crazy school.
Oh,
They drive crazy by the school.
Said aye.
There we go.
There you go. They heard me and they thought, oh, we don't want that to be.
8 yeas and 0
We
nays.
don't want them to think they have.
Thank you, everyone. That motion carries. Item 9A, under regular agenda, is the Water Resource Commissioner, appointment of deputies to the Water Resource Commissioner. Moved by Commissioner Spitz, supported by Commissioner Markham. Good morning, welcome. Just let us know who you are for the record.
Good morning, Jim Nash, Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner. This is Steve, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Steve Korth, Chief Manager.
Good morning.
So we're here today to bring in 3 more deputies because we need to have enough to do the things we need to do, and they have their own specialties. So I'm gonna let Steve kind of go through it.
Yeah, recent turnover, we had 3 people leave their positions and 2 retirements. So now we're replacing the 3 that left with 3 new deputies. And the process through the drain code has us coming through the Board of Commissioners. So this is our stop for the process.
I can't find my request button.
Awesome.
Where is it? You have to go back,
Let
right?
me just see if I see any hands. Chris Long.
All right, I found my button. I always figure you gotta go back. You gotta go back the screen. They should fix that somehow, that you can
Yeah.
stay on reading the
fix
item and
that.
request. I just wanted to make sure, so the other 3 or whatever retired, but they're the same positions, classifications of the replacements, or are they higher
One new
positions?
classification, 2 of them are managers, which matches the 2 managers that retired. But the newer classification is our Chief Legal Officer and Manager.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
She will be a deputy, which is very appropriate for
Okay, and that's kind of a new title, right? I remember reading, I
very
read it a
recent,
few days
yes,
ago.
very recent. Yes.
Okay, and then is it revenue neutral, or?
Yeah, there's no cost associated with these
That's
appointments.
what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Apart from retirements, you said that some left. Just wondering where they left to. 2 retirements and 1 just change career paths.
Oh, totally career paths. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Always make sure too, that I'm not fired.
Anything else from the committee? Seeing none, we can go ahead and prompt the vote.
Oh, no, mine didn't come up, cause I said that. I guess so, yeah.
Alright, let's re-prompt this since maybe you didn't get.
Okay, yeah, mine did come up this time, cause I said that.
Yeah, because you got yourself in trouble.
There's always someone watching us. Oh, did yours?
Came up again.
Mine came up.
Oh, mine didn't. I'll refresh, but yes, for me,
Thank you.
I'll refresh.
Can't take you anywhere.
You have 8 yeas and 0 nays.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maybe because I went
Thank
back and asked that question.
Next item up is 9B, which is the facilities management lease with Novi Investment Partners LLC at 48150 Grand River Avenue, Novi, Michigan, for the
Of course.
52-1 District Court. Moved by Rahman, supported by Wyford. Thank you both.
Oh, yeah, we're both
Good
in there, so it's
morning.
Gwen.
Morning, Commissioners.
You just introduce yourself for those listening.
Zakos, I'm the property specialist for facilities. I handle the leases, and purchase and sale of property for the county.
4 of us in district.
And with me is,
Alexander Black, I'm the court administrator at 52-1 District Court in Novi.
Thank you.
so in front of you is a new lease. We have, the story goes, I'll go back a little bit just to kind of give an update, but The Novi Court has been out at that location for quite a while, over 20 years. And
New there.
the ownership there has changed over hands. The current landlord has been a good landlord as far as maintenance and
Fast already, 20 years.
taking care of things and all that good stuff. There were some issues, but we've worked it out, and I'll let Alex talk about operations. But basically, the lease, like the Clarkston lease, we're on 10 years. So 10 years is up in 2026, and in this case, it's prudent to move forward and get a new lease. The court is not going to move from that location. The building is fine, the location is fine. So we've worked and negotiated with the landlord to add a 10-year lease for operations out there. The 10-year lease will have two options at the end of that, so actually a 5-year option, 2 5-year options, so the opportunity to be there long-term over at that location. So the other part that was in this was, one of the reasons this had come up a little earlier is because there was a termination clause. Both the Clarkson and the Novi lease currently have termination clauses, which allows the county to terminate within 1 year. Well, landlords don't like that. So this landlord was asking us to renegotiate, and we were able to get $150,000 in tenant improvements to the benefit of the court administrator. So in this new lease, there'll be a piggy bank where it'll be up to the court administration to spend that money on improvements inside for whatever they want. The landlord would do that work. We would get bids, and then he would pay for it, and it would draw down on that. $150,000. We have to spend it over 5 years. So that's one thing. Part of that was taking out that termination clause. However, we still have a limited termination clause for the possibility, let's say Novi wants to take over the court, but they don't want that building and that lease. So if Novi said, and things happened at the state, which I understand would be a very minuscule possibility of happening, but if it did, and Novi wanted to, for instance, operate the court, but put it on their corporate campus or their property somewhere else, and they didn't want the lease, we would be able to terminate the lease. So that gives us an out in that case. So at this point, we're asking the committee to approve a new 10-year lease for the Novi Court.
And by that point in time, we're aware that
The rental rate is the same with a 2% increase going forward, so it's picking off on that. And going forward, we have that, this lease would start March 31st of this year if approved and signed by both parties. So
That's what I thought.
all
You had
of
detectives
what
conducting
we
surveillance.
see is good, and this will
And-
work out well. If you have questions for Alex on the operations, she's here to handle that part too.
And I do wanna say, we've been there for 30 years, actually.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
I was gonna say, it's been there as long
as I've
lived
here.
I've been there for 28 and a half myself, but we've been in that building for 30 years, which is
That's
partly why we
fast.
asked for
That's
$100,000.
Aware
Times
Because the countertops are the same, some of the tile is the same, the bathrooms are the same, and to try to keep it up to county standards is difficult when it's a leased building, because of course the county doesn't wanna spend a lot of money on something we don't own. And as a landlord, you should update your building along the way, so the $150,000, which we're gonna have to really stretch because of, inflation, but we're gonna utilize that money to try to keep the building
Yeah.
up to date along the way.
Wonderful, thank you,
Good.
Ms. Black. We've got a few commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Spiz, followed by Rahman, followed by Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you both.
Thank
It's been a while. I have I'm gonna say a bunch, but I'll start with a couple questions. How much is this property worth? Do we know? Because the
It's a great spot.
new landlord just bought it, right? How much did he pay for it?
He paid less than 3 million.
He paid $5 million, several years ago.
Are you sure?
Yes.
5 million?
Yeah, 4.5, sorry,
It's not good, that's good.
4.5.
Because my real question is, if you calculate the cost of the rent over the time of the term, it's $10 million,
Yeah, I'm
right?
saying.
So the question
Got it.
comes, when do we make a decision as a county of, I call it in my business, make versus buy, but rent versus buy, right? When do we make that decision? Because to me, if I could have bought it for I'd even use your number, $5 million,
I wish we would have bought it.
I'm saving $5 million, and I could take that $5 million and put it in instead of $150,000, which I think is way too low, personally, for what you guys got. Should have got a lot more out of that for that type of lease of $10 million over the term, especially with no opt-out clause. So, do we have a policy, or who makes the decision of
Anything.
rent versus buy? Because we've been here 30 years, we've overpaid for that
I
facility.
can
by
tell you it
$10.
wasn't my decision. Obviously, I'm kept out of those conversations. They did offer to sell us the property, about a year and a half ago. So they wanted to sell it to us for somewhere around 8 million, 7.5 million.
Did that come in front of this board for
It did
decision?
not.
I didn't think so.
Administration has looked at this question, and that question is, there's not a lot of leases that we have are long-term, but there are 2 court leases that are at that. And when the $7.5 million came up, they said, well, we don't have the money for that, so we can't buy it.
But
the
So-
operating branch.
Right, but I mean, I can understand that at $7.5 million, but
Branch, not the
it
executive.
was sold
I
for
know.
3 to 5. To me, because I've seen this on other negotiated deals within this county, that I'm frustrated that we don't do a better job of actually negotiating the damn property down. Just frustrates me, because I think we could have got it for 3 to 5.
At one time in the past, there were opportunities. I
agree with
can't
you.
go back in
Should've
time,
came
and I
here.
don't know the decision on those
Rest the costs around.
processes, but along the ways, they just have never purchased this property.
I guess,
The location is wonderful, and the operations are great at that location. So that's number one. A lease is, of course, paying, over time.
Budget time.
And there's a payback on it. But it just had never
Budget time, we should
come
have
to
about 3
the
years
point
ago.
where they had the funding to buy the property. Same thing out at Clarkston.
and don't get my frustration.
I know.
And I understand.
It's not
Oh,
a
no,
teacher,
I
understand.
I'm upset
Budget
I'm with you.
because
Should've been
this,
after
for one, it never
the
came to
budget.
this board for that discussion,
Right.
right? And to say that we don't have the money, that is actually one of our
That's our job.
to make that
Right.
decision. And I can understand
That part.
administration can make a recommendation to us, but it's our
Right,
position to make
he
that.
could
And
have recommended no.
from a business case perspective, the general question that I just asked would have been my first question to them is, if you're gonna lease it rent it for 10 years and it's gonna cost you 10.
40 years is gonna be.
Find a way to find $3 to $5 million and pay for the damn thing. And then we'll put another million in to update it. You're still saving money.
Recall the approximate
I just don't get it. So,
10, but
I
now
wish
it's
I
gonna
would have pulled my money with somebody else and bought the building.
I would have known, I might have done it.
And I wanna just address the
Just frustrating, and I'm sorry.
Right.
the 150,000.
Well, 40 years.
I had wanted 250,000 for our upgrades, cause I understand that 150 isn't gonna get us much. I'm not part of the negotiation process. I'm provided with, this is where we've come to with him, what do you think about this? I saw some things that I didn't even like with the 150,000, they were gonna give him another, they were gonna give him part of the, part of the money that goes to his property manager, and then he wanted a certain amount to go to energy efficiency, and I said that's not really that should be up to him to do, so that was all I could provide, cause I was not allowed to be part of the negotiation.
She should do that, she knows that, it worked for the bill.
Let me
Hold on.
give Commissioner Rahman the floor and then Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam
See where we
Chair.
land.
So actually, Commissioner Spiz really covered what I wanted to cover, really mine was the same thought. $10 million is obviously quite a significant amount of money for something that we're not gonna own. Is there any thought, Novi is obviously a great area, and I'm sure there's no plans to ever move 53-1 out of that general area. But there's land even adjacent to it. Has anybody contemplated that if we're spending $10 million, has anybody done a cost
Many
study
times.
to figure out if it might be more cost effective? Cause even the plot of land right next door to it, I don't know if it's currently for sale, but potentially, is that an option or is that something we could look at?
That land is owned by ITC, so it's not something that we could obtain or purchase it from them, they utilize that for their lines and whatnot, but as far as building somewhere else, when I first started as a court administrator, now it's been 11 years, I guess, that I've been in this position, but in my time there've been talks on and off many times about building a new building, relocating. At one point, they were gonna put us in Wixom because we actually covered White Lake as well, because we cover such a big footprint out there, that Wixom was gonna be like kind of a little more center. But then White Lake went over to Clarkston and they said, okay, well, we're just gonna leave you in this building for now, and the past administration's plan was build Clarkston first because they had a greater need, and then Novi would be next. And then I think more recently, when they saw the cost of building even like for Clarkston, which is a smaller building, the cost was so exorbitant, we were told that, well, we're never gonna build Novi. You're lucky if we're gonna build Clarkston, and we've gotta take care of this training unit for the sheriff's department and all these other things first. So that's where we're at.
Whose decision was that?
Not mine.
Not ours.
And
Anything else, Commissioner Bowman?
I do, sorry, a couple
No,
now.
it's fine.
One other question for you, Alex. Last year you had mentioned, there were some updates and things that we needed to take care of, I think during budget hearings you mentioned. Have those happened? Because I know 150,000 to all of our points is not much money. So the
No.
things you spoke about last year, I presume have not happened yet,
No,
right?
no,
So the 150 is at least partially being spent there, so it's
Correct.
clearly not gonna go very far.
right.
So what is our option if we were hypothetically to say no to this today, right? Is there an option that this would go back to the drawing board? I mean, my goal is not to kill it. Obviously, I'm in Novi, this is my district. I wanna make
Right.
sure that we take care of our needs. But if we're not happy with the way this is written, to Commissioner Spiz's point, that, hey, look, we've gotta figure this out. Is there an option to go back to the drawing board and renegotiate some of this? Or is that?
If we sign this 10-year lease, at any time during the lease, we can ask the landlord to sell his building, and the lease would be nullified if the purchase happens, so.
But even if it's renegotiating the 150, to Alex's point that, hey, look, 150 is nothing. When you're talking $10 million,
Right.
he's giving us 150,000 to do renovations, and it sounds like they haven't touched it
It's not gonna be.
however many years. I mean, just as a landlord, that doesn't seem like they're
Right.
doing their part to keep up the building.
Anything that's been done so far has come off the county dime or out of our
And that's
budget.
my point.
That's normal
Yeah.
for a lease, that's normal.
It's a triple net.
Well, they've updated all the windows, for instance, so they've done quite a bit of updates over the past. Window replacement, there's been
Taxes.
heating and cooling updates, there's been,
Sweet lease.
and then some of it's been on the county's dime too, security updates.
Okay.
Not just security updates, but like our carpet, whenever we need carpet, it's gotta, come out of all of those sort of aesthetic things have to come out of our budget to cover those, so to what he's stating, yes, they replaced windows and they did do some upgrades to the HVAC. It's the same HVAC system, but they did some upgrades to it because it's never been, never functioned well from the beginning. So to say they did nothing would be not correct, but for the amount of money, and again, I'm with you because in my opinion, for the amount of money you're getting from us every single month, and it's a triple net, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, we've needed this extra office that we need to have built for my financial person in the main area. When the tile is falling apart in the bathrooms, it just, it's not up to county standards that way. And so when I'm told we have to get it out of our budget every time something like this needs to be upgraded, it's very difficult. So, we want to try to work with the landlord because he has been a good landlord. I've been there for every landlord, so comparatively, he's amazing. But I agree that we're giving a lot of money.
Right.
It's gonna pay for itself repeatedly.
So again, I guess going back to my original question is, do we have the ability to go back and renegotiate this, or is it just take it as it is, or if we say no today, it's just done? I'm not really sure what
It would have to be renegotiated because he needs us to, he needs us.
That doesn't expire to 26.
Anything else, Commissioner Robin? I got people chomping at the bit.
I'm sorry, so no, I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, followed by Wiper.
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Not jumping at the bit, just building a case. I also have a bunch of questions, so cut me off when you feel like I've used too many. My first one was answered because I was able to find a map of the county and how it's divided court-wise. And I guess just like a question for my education as a freshman here is, when's the last time we've really considered this map? And why we have, by my count, 7 courts in the Royal Oak Square, but then we have dozens of other townships that all report to individual court buildings far, far away.
I can explain to you the history if you'd like. 'Cause
Sure.
I don't recognize you either, and so
I'm Brendan Johnson,
Yeah,
sorry,
hi,
I'm a
Brendan.
freshman. Nice
That's
to
okay,
meet
I
you.
know. Back in the 60s, in these areas, the Troy area, Clarkson, Novi, Rochester, those sections of the county were too small to support their own little courts. So like Waterford has their own court, Waterford District Court has their own court. In these 4 corners, there just wasn't enough to say, okay, Novi gets their own court. So all of these municipalities got together and said, okay, we're gonna support these 4 courts are gonna be our courts, and we're all gonna feed into that, which makes us one of the largest district courts, because 52nd, really all the 4 divisions is one court, so it makes us the largest in the state. The county at that time was our funding unit because those municipalities couldn't afford to pay for them themselves. So of course, there's money that comes to us that goes back to the county, but it would come back to the county anyway in a lot of ways, but there's more that comes here as a result. So the reason Royal Oak has their own is they could support their own at that time. And the reason we have all of these municipalities feeding in is because way back in the 60s, they couldn't support their own. So that's why you're stuck funding us.
Right, I mean, I get that. I guess I'm just wondering when the last time we've thought about whether or not that's
Oh, it was a good idea?
good idea.
Oh, never.
Okay, maybe offline
I mean, it's
and in
brought
the
up.
future we should.
It comes up in
Yeah.
budget
It
hearings
Good,
every
comes up.
year.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it comes up almost every budget hearing, like, why are we doing this again?
Okay, cool.
Don't worry, it doesn't offend me.
My second question, I'm learning a lot. While I was on that website, this is just a random note, but Southfield is spelled wrong on our website. It's 2 separate words, so whoever is in charge of the website, Southfield's one word. The Pontiac one, do we own that building or do we lease it?
Pontiac isn't ours.
Pontiac's, okay.
50th supports their own.
Pontiac's Pontiac.
Okay, I need to learn more about the courts.
Yeah.
I'll
So
get into
the
my
50
actual
seconds are
questions.
the only one that are ours. The 52nd, 52, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the only
Only
ones
ones
that the
that-
county
Yes,
solely supports.
Okay,
everything else is the local municipality.
Farmington's got it.
that's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
All right, I live in Rochester Hills, so that's my
Oh, okay.
my perspective. Cool, so actual questions then. You keep saying that this is a good location for us, but are we being good and doing good in this location? This is a really big thing for me. I think as a millennial and as a fan of downtowns are the strength of this county. And if we can do anything to get rid of our legacy as a place where you have to have a car to do anything, I think that's the most important thing we can be doing as we move into the future. And especially in a place like this where it's cost negative to us to be in such a suburban location that hasn't been updated in decades, it sounds like. I get that Novi doesn't exactly have a downtown, but it does have, 1, a concentrated intersection of a commercial intersection, and then 2, a really nice municipal campus. And I guess I just wanna know, even though this is fine, it's a fine spot for us, are we doing the most good we can in this spot?
Yeah.
And I feel like the answer is no.
Well, I have to tell you, and I hear what you're saying, but I have to tell you yes, only because so many jurisdictions that we serve. So if we concentrate on, we're just gonna serve like the residents of Novi because we moved to there. We serve Commerce, Walled Lake, Wixom, South Lyon Township. So all we would be doing is, if we move to a downtown area, is helping out the few people that live in that area. So many people that come to our court users, are not even from the area. Because we have the 96 corridor,
Yeah.
people that get pulled over
tickets.
are often not even from the area. You'd be amazed at how few people that we have that are just actually from Novi are coming through our court, so.
Oh, and I hear you, it's just, it is very difficult I'm the transit chair. It's difficult for me to constantly have to think about transit and combat the idea of what transit should be in Oakland County as not a valet service for people to get wherever they wanna go.
Right.
And it's easier for me to just concentrate all of those destinations in one spot.
Yeah.
And I understand that everyone's coming from a different place, but if I can at least concentrate their destinations, it's a heck of a lot easier to design a transit system.
Right, so if you're saying if we can have so the bus does, just so you know, right in front of our courthouse.
Right in.
The new smart line
when I
in
tell you right in
Novi
front of
goes
it,
right to the court.
I can walk
Okay.
out my door and it's
Okay.
right there.
That makes me feel a little bit better,
That
just a little bit better.
So there's one right in front and one right across the street because we have Providence Hospital. We have Providence Hospital directly across the street as well,
Right.
so there's one right across the street and there's one right in front. In fact, we have a lot of
Yeah, it's
Kroger
busy by
carts
there.
that get left on our property because they, they'll come, go to Kroger, get their groceries, leave the cart, and so we have to return the cart. So that's, it's every day. We do see people
It is built
utilizing
up around there.
the system every day. Cause at first I was like, how many people are really gonna use this? And I see people at the bus stop all the time. I see them being dropped off. Not often to come, I have to be honest, not often to come to our court, but we have a lot of,
Shopping center.
we have a lot of people that drive, obviously. But yeah, so we are, I hear what you're saying. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of I see everybody coming from everywhere to our place. And now with the utilization of Zoom as well, obviously, we are very mindful when people cannot drive. We don't want them driving illegally or if they don't have a car. So we do, I feel like, and I would love for you to come visit us.
I would love to.
I feel like we do a great job of serving the public. It is my number one goal there, and I know that's not what we're here for today, but that's my number one goal always is public comes first.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Weipert, followed by Commissioner
So
Miller.
Paul, they came to us, right? Because the way their mortgage is structured, that termination clause is making the landlord protect money for the lender. So they came to us for this, right?
Initially, the landlord had presented this case 2 years ago. Hey, your lease terminates in 2026, so they tried 2 years ago, they tried last year, and finally we brought it up again, and based on the analysis, it made sense.
Good deal for them.
But isn't there a component where his lease payments are restricted to him because his lender's worried about that termination clause?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I was told,
So
I
his-
was told he let that out, that his, because there's a current termination clause that's 365 days, that his lender is keeping cash flow or something like that.
Owner.
Yeah, he told me that 2 years ago and last year, that was an issue for them. So he's the one that needs this, yes.
Yeah, he needs it, so, what if we table this and send you back? How hard were they on the
Table it,
250?
Don't table it, reject it.
Well,
Yeah,
what would we renegotiate? That's,
the 150.
Or just buy the building. Didn't you say that they would still sell the building to us?
yeah, but
That's a different.
I can't speak for administration, and you'll go ask, but that finding that money to buy the building now is a whole big, long process, and I don't know that that's, and then building a building would be even more expensive. The Rochester Hills port, the Rochester port was built years ago, it cost $20 million. Now it would cost so much more. Projections out at Clarkston, we have the land, but building out there would be, again, multi-millions of dollars. So building is not an option. If buying is something you wanna do, you can, even if we sign this lease, we can negotiate with the landlord to buy the building at some time.
The 150 is not
We don't have to wait 10 years to buy it.
Yeah.
Would it help you if I told you what it was that we were hoping to take care of over the next 5 years? Maybe that would help. So one main thing, the one big thing that we need is, it wasn't originally built for a courthouse. So we didn't have necessarily enough offices. We've renovated in the probation department several times to try to accommodate and have private, spaces or whatever. Well, I have a financial person, we've got financial records, splayed on her desk in a cubicle. And so she's needed a separate office for some time. It shouldn't be a great deal of money to build this office because we basically need 2 walls. We're gonna put it adjacent to another office and then there's windows behind. But either way, we've gotta build a small office for her in the administrative area. We need to take out a couple of our rolling cabinets to do that. That's, everything's thousands of dollars. So that's the big thing that we need to do. And then, our carpet is okay right now, but in the next probably 5 years, we'll need to replace that. We have tile that we've wanted to replace for some time that's like cracking and it's just gonna pull up because, the grout is done. Well, we got a quote for that. Just to do our small bathrooms was $16,000 just for the little tile to put in there. So that would need to be done. Our bathrooms, it would be more of a want, but they need to be upgraded because, people continue to scrape, they don't like to vandalize in our bathrooms and whatnot. And then, there's dents and some of the locks don't work. So at some point, they just don't work. So we'll need to upgrade some of the bathrooms. Again, our countertop is original countertop, so we've been there 30 years. So it's the same Formica, has worked okay. It's held up pretty well, but at some point, they crack. We've got little cracks here and there. At some point, you need to replace that. Those are the types of things that we're talking about that need to be done. And my concern, of course, when I talked to them and they, there's this big reduction in the 150 that came across to me, I said, we're barely gonna be able to do this with 150, if we can do this with 150. And I just know that it's very difficult every time I've needed to get carpet or paint or things just to keep it up to any kind of standard is very difficult. I don't have it in my budget for those types of things. There's no line item for me for, miscellaneous needs in the building because we don't own it. So those are the types of things that we'd be spending the money on, because other things he'd be responsible for. But every time a door lock breaks or whatever, there's like this, we look at the lease, okay, who takes care of the door, who takes care of the lock,
It's all us.
it's very tedious.
It's spelled out in the lease, so it's.
It's us.
Commissioner, are you all set?
Yes, thanks.
Commissioner Miller?
Thank you. Sounds like the landlord has the best deal since sliced bread.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so too.
so if hypothetically, if we don't renew, it sounds like they need us. Cause they have to do the upgrades if we don't lease the building anyways. And there's no building around for us to occupy, right?
You mean if we were like, okay, we're
Yeah,
done?
like this is too much money, with this, we're unable to do this, it doesn't make business. So just like hypotheticals, right? Just
I mean, I'm sure there's a building somewhere, there's so many, there's so many companies that have.
There is a lot of
I
and
understand.
stuff, if we
Industrial.
really wanted to do that.
If we really wanted to do that, yes.
You probably could at some point, but
And
That's a waste.
retrofitting another building would be very expensive.
Yeah.
We-
Yeah.
To make it into like a courthouse
It
type
would.
of-
Well, I totally understand.
Rooms.
Right.
I'm
But yes, but the answer is yes, of course, there's buildings, because of the footprint that we cover, there's plenty of places to look for us, it's just trying to keep it, center, which is why the location was picked, because 96 comes
Yes,
in,
makes sense,
Grand River.
yes. Well, I totally understand. I'm just, just.
Yeah, spitballing, I get it.
Cause I've seen, like in my life of work, places that wouldn't, do the owners wouldn't do the upgrade, so they lost the flag of the business they were, and then the building just sits there now. Cause they thought the building would sell and it just sits there, right?
Right, that happens a lot.
So that's they're putting the burden on us to keep them, to make the building good, so if we ever do decide to walk away, that they can just turn and sell it. So I go with, Commissioner Rahman's, go back to them and renegotiate some kind of, whether it's a lower lease payment, so we can put that funding into some building, or if it's, if that's the lease payment, a portion of it goes to the revitalization or renovation of portions of it.
And we've considered that with the 150,000, we considered where we would apply that. Could we apply it to, paying the taxes on our behalf? Could we apply it to lowering the rent? But in the end, we wanted it to go right to Alec. So in her.
Me specifically.
Right to
Wait till you
Alec.
see what my
Now we
office
see where
is
this is
gonna
Right to
look
the
going.
Board
like.
of Administration.
I will have a hot tub.
To do updates and upgrades.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so if you like, say hypothetically, okay, we're doing 100,000 is the least, the 50's gonna go toward renovation. These are just spitballing, right? Cause if that's the number, 150, we can't get away from that, some kind of way to help that, cause like you said, you don't have it in your budget, cause you don't own the building. And how do we make that, fluid, so it's not throwing money just at a sinking ship? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Which spiz am I going with here? The first spiz or the second?
Well, you want the good spiz, just so
Yeah,
much.
which one you want? I can do them all at once, but if Commissioner Markham has questions, I've already went once, let her go first.
Yeah.
It's not so much a question as the 52 courts, all of them together. It's my understanding that the crisis that we have right now is in Clarkston,
It is.
right? I would like to see us renegotiate a bigger number for you. I think we've all said the 150 seems pretty thin for what you need and where we're going and what the landlord's getting out of this. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that I think there's a bigger topic. We go through this budget every year now. They come in, we can't support them in the way they need. I mean, how long have we been trying to get you guys tablets, right? You
Yeah.
finally got them.
Right.
But I think there's a bigger topic that needs to be addressed between the board and the courts and the administration in terms of where are we really going in the next 10 years, right? Because Clarkston's still got all the problems Clarkston has, right?
Yes, and Clarkston is a priority over Novi. I
Right.
think everyone's aware of that. And we plan to bring a new lease within 30 days or so, which will have an expansion into the building next door. So the Clarkston is gonna be a 10-year lease, but we're going to be able to have that court administrator, which really needs space, have 1,100 square feet in the building next door to do whatever they need. And then there's another step, but that's a long-term plan, which is we could take over the whole building next, that landlord has. And the court could operate that, and they could put a connection between the buildings, so it's really some opportunity there, long-term.
Well, that's good.
And again, at any point, the county could decide to buy that building or, buy Novi, if that's where they wanna go.
But even to that end in Clarkston, I mean, it's still not necessarily a safe location for them because of the footprint and because of the fact you can't make it a secure parking for the employees. So, I'm like the old administrator, right? So I speak for all of us a lot of times here, and I can tell you, while that's a solution, it is definitely not the best solution for Clarkston, but it is a solution to try to take care of the immediate crisis of space, but it doesn't really take care of the immediate crisis of safety.
No.
It really doesn't, but that'll be another conversation, right? And we'll just bring it back up at budget.
Yeah, I guess I somehow would like to have the whole conversation of the big courts in the sky, because I've been on finance now for 5 years, going on 6.
We talk about
Nothing
it
has
every time.
changed. Right, so.
They got internet.
You do,
Yeah, they got
and
internet.
laptops, there you go.
They didn't have internet.
Things are looking up.
They didn't have internet.
I'm kind of,
Never
I'll
understood that.
finish. I'm kind of ambivalent here. I would like to ask for more money. And we have a couple of years here before the lease runs out, so that's my 2 cents.
Commissioner Space?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will first off say, I agree Clarkston is the top priority. But I don't think we should lose
Because they
sight
have
of
safety
this
issues.
location either and make a good business decision. So as of right now, I'm a no across the board, right? Flat no. Cause I think we can get a better deal either for more than $150,000 or a better lease rate or buy the property personally. Put a business case together and do it, and if we have to have a discussion with administration, let's have that discussion. But my question is, going to the negotiation side of it a little bit, is this property, how is this property zoned? Is it zoned office space?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knows the marketplace for office space is crashing and burning.
Mhm, yes.
You know, nobody's coming back to
Yep.
work with office space, so to
Getting
me,
rid of 'em.
the landlord's in a bad spot. I don't want the landlord to lose money, don't get me wrong, I mean, everybody's in business to make money and I'm okay with that. But I don't like to get bent over the couch either, right, and I think we are in this case. So, I think we need to go back to the drawing board with the landlord and have that discussion. And my final question is, in the current lease, is there a clause that says we have to return the facility back the way we found it?
No.
So there's not a clause in there that says we have to, any improvements we made, anything we've done, any walls we've built, anything we've moved, we have to put it back to original form 30 years ago, because a lot of leases have that in it.
No, he has to approve anything that we do, but that is it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all your questions and comments.
I just wanna make
Yes,
one
Paul.
thing more clear, so it sounds like where we're going with this is, okay, the tenant allowance should be more, is what you're thinking. And the 2 years that we have on the lease has an option, and the Novi does have an option of 7 years after that. So, you know, it was good, but we wanted to, you know, redo everything to have this look out at 10 years plus 5 years. So we have time. And if the board can give us direction specifically on, you know, what you want us to do, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you talk about options, is it a joint mutual option, or do they have the option, or do we have the option?
Right now, there's a 7-year option that's 100% for the county.
Okay, so it's our option.
It's our-
I worked under federal contractors where it's their option whether you like it or not. That's why I asked that.
It's our option whether he likes it or not.
All right, thank you.
Like I said, I appreciate all of this. It's great food for thought. Looking forward to what next steps would look like. Lease to own, that was never thought of in terms of with this particular new landlord.
I don't think this landlord has it financially, the ability to do that. This is an investment, they have, you know, partners and they have a return to make.
Okay.
You know, it's either lease or purchase.
Thank you. And so, yeah, I think it's time to call for the vote. Have a suspicion of how it's gonna go.
With the direction of negotiate more than the 150, I think we need to put.
Well, if it doesn't pass,
Right,
Do you want
it
it?
puts them in her hands.
We all have our own opinion what should happen probably.
Right.
And I'm not sure how this goes, but do you wanna just table it and have us come back again versus voting on it, or?
I'm not sure the term table is the right one.
Yeah.
Postpone,
and I
you
don't
can
know.
postpone if they
My-
renegotiate.
My
Mr.
personal,
Sis, you're recognized.
my personal opinion is, I wanna reject the current lease, the way it is.
Okay.
That's why I wanna put it up for a vote and reject it. If we table it, it means the current lease is still on the table.
Right.
To me, in my opinion, it's not, I'm a no. So I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's how I feel.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Just to me, we need to reject the current lease agreement.
As
Vote
opposed
no,
to-
and
Vote
then let them
no,
go
that
back
way
to
they
the
have to go
drawing
back to the
board.
table and come up with other options. You know, if it's more than 150, if it's a purchase agreement, if it's something, but you need to go back and see what those options are with the landlord or what they're willing to do. And I would come back with more options in each one.
Yeah, it gives us a little bit of upper hand voting
Personally, I
no,
would rather say,
probably.
okay, if we wanted to buy it, we would sell it to Springs, because I know he's got a cost into it, and he needs to make some money, fine. But if he's not willing to do that, or we're not willing to do that because he wants $10 million, which I think is outrageous, and we can't negotiate it lower,
Right,
okay, I need more than 150.
right.
That's my position.
Okay, hopefully that was captured in the audio. Aaron said something profound, I want him to repeat it.
No, I was just want to remind everyone, because there's been a lot of conversation. The motion on the table is to recommend this this to board. So remember that when you're voting yes or no, that right now the recommendation is to board.
Right. So, no,
So if you're ready for me to properly
but
vote.
then it's like, then it
So
goes
the
on record.
implications mean
I know.
to the board versus this being a no, like,
Correct.
Personally, why delay the inevitable? It's gonna go to the floor. I'm gonna make the same arguments and I'm hoping it's gonna go down there.
Or you could postpone
With 19 of us versus the.
and let them renegotiate, because then it's in the minutes saying.
That just delays the time another week.
so we'll go ahead and prompt the vote.
See, a no is, I get it.
We're saying a no vote says we don't want it to go to the board.
Right.
Correct.
You don't have a lease agreement at this point.
Didn't come up on mine, I'm a no. So everybody knows.
But a postpone would have been.
Grumpy no there.
It'd be better to say renegotiate. You don't think?
You have 0 yeas and 8 nays.
That's a first for me.
That's a first for me.
Yeah.
You negotiate all the time.
Thank you,
Right.
Alex, you know.
You guys are working hard on this. Thank you for all the hard work.
Yeah, no problem. I totally understand where you're coming from.
Well, I
And-
appreciate you.
150 is nothing. No,
Now,
you can't do
there's
anything
more
about
now
it.
that comes from this, and so I'm sure more conversations will definitely be had over the next few hours, probably you'll get some calls.
Okay.
But for now, we'll just continue with our agenda and move to our next item. And then, I'm sure our chairman and our finance chair.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll all have
It's
some
nice to get your
guidance
perspective.
Zoning is
along with staff.
thought into it.
Yeah.
commercial on both sides, but I could speak about zoning.
All right,
So-
No, you can't.
let's move
But you
to
have to agree, it's
item.
crazy that.
Look at this.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is,
Show
that is
me.
a zoning county or
Zoning is
city
big.
issue.
Nothing is real.
All right, item 9C, folks, which is our grant
Cut
amendment
my teeth on the
Number
planning
2,
commission over there.
to the Brownfield redevelopment grant with Michigan Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy Eagle for the Webster Community Center project in
I move
Pontiac.
it. I move it.
Moved by Spiz, supported by Commissioner
Offer
Markham.
what, Glenn?
Webster School.
Okay.
Yes.
Bradley, thank you so much for your patience on this beautiful Wednesday morning, and the floor is yours.
Morning, Commissioners. This is our second grant amendment to the Webster Community Center's Eagle Grant.
Can't hear you.
The initial,
Yeah, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
oh boy.
Oh, there you go.
Now?
I hate that though when you do Zoom.
We can hear you
We
now.
can hear you now.
We can't
Great.
hear
But
us.
he can't hear us because he took the headphones off.
Oh, shoot, oh boy.
Oh, boy.
This is like a Monday morning.
It
Oh,
does
boy.
like it. First thing.
He's going to get a whole other laptop. No, he's getting replaced. We can hear him.
I just don't support the
Oh, Brett to the rescue.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so, so this amendment is to add $575,000 to the Webster Community Center's cleanup from Eagle. It's an Eagle grant. The initial grant was for $425,000. As they got into working on the project, as is the case in a lot of brownfield projects, they ran across some more stuff. So they asked for additional money from Eagle. Eagle complied with that. And so here we have additional $525,000 to the original grant, and it extends the grant period for an additional year as well.
Well, golly, Brett, or as I say, Brett, golly, Bradley, we'll have you round out our meetings every time to give us some bright spots.
Yeah,
So it's a
keep
grant,
them
more money, that's all I heard. Are there any questions from board
covering
members?
it. Yeah, they're covering
Just
the
double checking,
cost.
Commissioner Wyper?
So, I mean, it's gonna, 1 year extension gonna be that much more work? I mean, you found,
It doesn't necessarily have to last that long, so if the work gets completed beforehand, we'll be able to close it out. But at this point, we're not sure if it's gonna last the full amount or not, as far as time frame.
and what, asbestos and oil tanks, or what kind of stuff?
Sure, it's actually compounds in the groundwater. So this new money will be used for controls, which is going to be a vapor barrier system to be in place, and other certain controls and management in order for the building to be able to be occupied.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no other hands raised to speak, I will go ahead and have you guys, or Aaron, please prompt the vote.
Ten money.
State.
Yes.
I'd like to use it.
Yes.
Thanks, Brad.
You have 8 yeas and 0 nays.
8 yeas, 0 nays, that motion carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Use Bradley Hanson just in case. Thank you. All right. What a robust meeting, folks. Three regular agenda items, and here it is, 10:30.
But there's no rules. So it's something you don't know.
Public
You know what I'm
comment number
saying?
2. Is there anyone here who'd like to address this committee with regards to anything under the sun?
I wonder you want me to vote.
Seeing none, I will close public comment. Number 11 is other business, and please.
So I just have a concern, this has to do with public transit, is I was driving 15 miles between Archer Lake and Middlebelt and saw this poor elderly lady standing in the snow because the bus stop is like in a ditch.
Yeah.
So is there a plan to build any kind of like a
Supposed to
concrete,
be.
even a pad, right, just so they
Supposed
can,
to be
if they're standing there?
closures.
Or an enclosure, right,
Right,
because
they're supposed,
she's
I thought that's
literally,
what they said.
she was actually standing 5 feet from the sign because the sign was plowed in.
Right.
Right, so that's one thing concern, and then with that, with the enclosures that are so close to the road,
Danger.
are we making sure that they're cleared after they're plowed?
Right.
Because the plow just shoots it wherever, it doesn't,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Commissioner Johnson, did you want to speak to that?
I would love to speak on this. This is the bane of my existence, and after a hearty snowfall, the most depressing thing in the world. Because in the snow, you get a visceral reminder of people actually use sidewalks. People actually use sidewalks. I think we forget about that. A lot of municipal leaders forget about that. They're like, oh, sidewalks are necessary ADA decorations. But when it snows, I see bike trails, I see tons of foot traffic, and sidewalks never get cleared. So that's my number one thing is any municipal leader, you gotta clean your sidewalks.
Put it in zoning.
Oh my God. Number 2, and this is the transit agencies. My relationship with the transit agencies goes something like, can you please make a station and can you keep it clean? And they will say, well, the municipalities are welcome to do that. And it's like, great, but could you at least make it a little bit bigger? They, smart at least, they do not know how many bus stops they have. And doing a audit of how many bus stops there actually are is step number 1. Step number 2, any of us, them, anyone else, we have to be pressuring the municipalities to be proactive about that. But 3 is, and I do think we've talked about this a few times, we have quite a bit of it's not left over, but it is unappropriated transit money. And we have in our committee talked about being creative with that, that is reserved for things like this that are last mile, capital expenditures like building stops, like investing in bike infrastructure or creating a pedestrian safety island in the middle of so many of our 6-lane highways that are rivers to cross basically. So I think it's a combination of everything. At the end of the day, I guess technically that's municipal land, so we need municipal buy-in no matter what way you slice it.
May I follow up with that, Madam Chair?
Please.
And, literally 200 feet from where it's in the middle of the ditch, there's a sidewalk. Like a crosswalk, right, where it's the corner, it's a street. So why, who picks them and why don't they put it right there on the corner? Kind of like a bus stop when you went to school, right? Bus stops, you go.
Smart picks all of them based on.
You're right,
That
they
ditch
put
looks
them in
good,
the
let's throw
middle.
one there.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
look,
put them in the middle, you're right, they don't put them on
I completely agree with you.
I
don't wanna
don't.
block an intersection.
I completely agree with you. They have a sheet of metrics and they do some fancy math, and I don't.
What a high school bus.
My intuition is different than their fancy math.
Yeah,
But-
Of course
it
it
just
is,
blows
yeah.
my mind, I don't mean to cut you off, because even like you said, they block traffic, they want to, but when they stop at the bus stop, it's a 1-lane road, so they block traffic anyway.
Right.
So,
I'm even why not have the heated, where it
we
melts on its own.
just want to get a pad and a shelter there, we can talk about heat later, but. So, that's just one of my things I saw on the way here that I was like, that's a big
So
concern.
there's a brand new federal program called Safe Streets for All.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And its whole goal is to provide support for mobility, non-motorized mobility, well, non-car mobility anyway. And so the funding that we have still in the transit, we can use as a match. SEMCOG has put out the request for, projects on this, and we really need to go after that money because I think it's not just Novi, where you heard her say, well, there's a stop at the courts, well, yeah, it's in the road.
Mhm.
And then the one at the hospital is, they kind of pull into the hospital, but there's no communication, there's no visibility. Down at the Adele Center at Novi and Grand River, there should be a bus stop with a shelter. But, the guy who owns the Adele Center, he doesn't really want to talk about that. And the city says, well, he should put that in there because it serves him. And we're sitting here as the people who want transit for everybody. I don't care who does it. We can actually help you find the money to do it. Just take it on. So maybe if our transit group is more directive to some of the local communities, it might help. I don't know.
We can be.
Yeah, because I know my community is pushing back on having to spend money on any of this, on implementing it. They're the one community in the county, 63 communities. They're the one community that hasn't got a contract with a local provider. It's just, I think we need to put some pressure on not only Novi, but, we got
was
the
West
problem in front,
Bloomfield.
that was West Bloomfield. I'm sure we have the problem up in Rochester.
Right out here.
So,
Yeah.
and right up here, yeah. So, yes, I think that topic of the support to the transit in terms of infrastructure needs a bigger thing. I'm all about big projects today, I guess, I don't know, but it's a big problem to solve still.
Well, I hear a conversation needing to be had with our transportation chair, maybe a community roundtable of sorts for all of the supervisors and mayors and execs. So this is good. Thank you for bringing this up, Commissioner Miller. Anything else? Yes, Commissioner Smith.
I'd like to make a request to have Automation Alley and the U.S. Center of Advanced Manufacturing come in and give us an update on where they're at, how they're spending our $3 million.
All right, I like that.
What was the second one?
The U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing.
That's who we gave the $3 million to last year.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's
no problem.
Agreed.
You got a lot of crap for that.
I think it's almost 2 years.
It is almost 2 years. It's been
Thank you.
quiet in the room for a year.
Appreciate that.
so.
Yeah, right.
All right,
Very true.
well, I see no other commissioners looking for recognition. I will go ahead and adjourn this wonderful meeting of the EDI committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.